Almost a year ago, I made a theory on Licht and the true origins of his swords, and with recent information from the current arc, it lets me expand upon this theory now. And so, I'd recommend before getting into this video maybe rewatching that video, but I'm still going to briefly summarize what I went over in that theory so that you don't really have to watch the video, and then I'm going to get into new information that expands upon it. Basically, my theory was that Licht swords are not magic swords, like not pure magical constructs, but they are magic items instead. This is based on the fact that even when Licht uses them and purifies them of anti-magic, they can clash with the anti-magic swords, which would likely mean that they have physical properties, as it heavily correlates to how Qliphoth used treasure swords to counter the anti-magic power of Asta. Then I came up with a theory of who created the swords, using the general fantasy lore of dwarves and the fact that their race was introduced in Black Clover, paired with the idea of the time of antiquity, in which that term is generally used in fantasy for a time of peace and prosperity between multiple races. I made the prediction that dwarves and their crafting ability made the demon swords for the elf tribe. Whether that be for Licht or his ancestors, as we know that magic is hereditary, his ancestors likely had similar magic to Licht, maybe blade magic or fire sword magic, and so that would pair with the power of the demon swords. Since humans and elves made a pact to keep the Shadow Palace a rare occurrence, it wouldn't be out of question for the dwarves to have created these swords for the elf tribe as a pact so that the elves could protect the dwarves from demons or devils. In all instances, the swords seems like magic items, as they effortlessly exist outside of Licht's grimoire. The Demon Dweller was likely in the dungeon for hundreds of years, and the Demon Annihilator sword in the Gravido Stone region for hundreds of years as well. But I also think that there has been even more information that has been presented to show that these are magic items and not anti-magic spells or magical spells. We know that Asta has been possessed by a devil, as stated by Dante, yet out of all of the possessions, Asta, he has to gain his power differently from the rest. Monica, Zenon, and Dante all get the power from their devil directly. Meanwhile, Asta must use the swords to get any of that devil power. He wields the sword and it flows through him. Also, there was something I missed at the time in my first video. You can argue that Yami's foreshadowing of the dungeon arc proves that at the very least the Demon Dweller sword is a magic item, as in chapter 11, before Asta and Co. enter the dungeon, Yami states, "By the way, in past dungeons I hear people found magic items powerful enough to change civilization, and others became able to use ultimate magic." That's exactly what happens. Yuno gets ultimate magic in the Wind Spear itself. Asta gets a powerful magic item in the Demon Dweller sword. So I think that this was definitely a nod that the sword is in fact a magical item and not a magical construct. I also noticed this statement here in chapter 210 when Licht and Lumiere do a combo spell to protect their allies. Licht thanks to himself. The Demon Dweller sword bestows and stores of magic for those who have ties to each other. It's a blade that connects others. Licht thinks of us as a sword rather than his own magic, and Lumiere thinks, "My magic can stand up against the devil. We'll send it through the sword to the rest of them." Again, Lumiere wording it as if Licht's swords is an item and not Licht's own magic. For example, if they were magical constructs, them being imbued with anti-magic should destroy them. Also, the Demon Slayer sword has an empty space on the hilt that looks like it could be fit with a magic stone, which again makes me think that this is a magical item. But this goes into the next part of my theory, and that is that I'm going to theorize how these swords got their names. So we know that the Dark Triad's plans are to use William's World Tree magic and Yami's dark magic to open up the dimension to bring in more devils into the world. And this is something that has very likely already happened, as while yes, Loro was reading out of a book for this, I think this is just how her ability works. The knowledge and power of the past queens, they are inherited to her. So I just think that she takes that knowledge like this, she envisions a library and peeks in, and as you can see, she just touches the book that's inside of her mind and she gets all the knowledge from it. Knowledge can be memory, so I think it's very likely that these events have already happened before, as in devils being brought into the world like an army. And that would make it that this is long ago in the past, that the devils and demons were unleashed and then 90% of the population of the continent was wiped out. So these events would have to have happened within the past 1200 years, as that is the origin of the Heart Queen. So this means that it is going to have taken place between 500 and 1200 years ago, since the Elf Massacre was 500 years prior to the beginning of Black Clover. An event like that would definitely be remembered within those 500 years. So I wonder if during these times of antiquity, some malevolent actors brought a swath of devils and demons into the world by using World Tree and dark magic. The once thriving era of antiquity brought to its knees. I think it's highly likely that in this great catastrophe, that one of Licht's ancestors wielded the dwarven crafted swords and protected the world. Now, I think why this has to be one of Licht's ancestors is we do know that Patri was a child when Licht just got his grimoire, and it's very likely that, or very unlikely that this whole catastrophe of 90% of the population being wiped out happened before meeting Lumiere. It would have to be a long time before that. So that's why I think it's one of Licht's ancestors that wielded these swords, and these swords are passed down through generations. But in this grand conflict of 90% of the population being wiped out, each of these swords would earn the names the Demon Slayer, the Demon Dweller, and the Demon Destroyer / Annihilator sword through the many battles they would go through against the demons and devils. I think it's especially why Zagred targets Licht as a devil host, as he went after Lumiere's body. If he did, and Lumiere's grimoire, Licht and the demon swords would still be there to try and take him down. But in going after Licht, he not only gets his grimoire and body, but he also would have the demon swords in his possession. Zagred might have been a survivor of that grand conflict and had to work smarter to achieve his goals, wiping out the elves to achieve his new body, making the humans and the elves fight each other. It also does check out, as Zagred says he hasn't had his body in centuries, which means it was even before the time of Lumiere and Licht's bond, and it would make sense as to why Zagred hated both elves and humans and treat them as pawns. So what if when the last time Zagred had his body, that was when the last time the World Tree magic and dark magic brought apart the Tree of Qliphoth and brought devils into the world? What if that was the last time Zagred actually had a body before when he took Ron's body and then used the magic stone to create one? So that's what I think probably happened and how the swords got their name. It was through this great catastrophe where 90% of the population was wiped out that these swords became legendary. And this also brings in the next question, is we know there's an ancient evil sleeping in the Spade Kingdom. Is this the original outbreak of what happened in the past too? Where the Spade Kingdom is located now, when the great catastrophe happened, was it the same kingdom? Was it the same area? And maybe, remember, Dante was looking at that weird crystal or ice wall, and if you notice, there is a silhouette behind the wall. Is this part of what had happened? Did the great evil, the ancient evil, get sealed behind this wall? And this is going to be the first thing to come out with World Tree and dark magic. It could just be the shading and the style of the art, but it does look like a silhouette because it is different at different points of this ice or crystal. So is this going to be the first thing that comes out? What is that? So yeah, a lot of interesting stuff here. So I think it is not out of the question that these are dwarven crafted swords, that these were relics and legendary items and weapons of a past conflict of when the devils and demons almost wiped out the world. But one of Licht's ancestors used these swords and saved the world, and these swords then got the names of the Demon Slayer, the Demon Dweller, and the Demon Destroyer or Demon Annihilator sword. I say that because the Demon Destroyer sword has been called both the Demon Destroyer and the Demon Annihilator sword, but then again, it was called the Demon Annihilator by Licht. The Destroyer, I believe, was by Raya. So Licht is probably a better authority since it's the swords that he uses of what they are. So I'll go Demon Annihilator sword. So that's what I think probably happened. But again, it likely was not Licht who was the one who used these swords and made them up to what gave them their legendary names. It's probably one of his ancestors if that's how it works, because Patri saw Licht turn 15 and get his grimoire. It's very likely that Licht was the leader of the elf tribe and the one who fought the demons and devils. Before then, it's probably just his ancestors who all have sword magic or similar types of sword magic, and then they use these swords to protect the elves and probably overall the world. As we know, the elves protected humans a long time ago from natural disasters, so maybe they helped humans from the demons and devils, who would be basically personifications of natural disasters. Well, with that being said, that's pretty much the end of the video. Let me know what your thoughts are down below. Please leave a like if you enjoyed, comment, and subscribe. Don't forget, I do have a fitness channel called The Hall of Gains. If you want any fitness, nutrition, exercise advice, go subscribe. That'll be linked in the description. But I hope you guys all have an amazing day. Plus...